Well, we haven't been around for a while. It's been almost a month. I think with the postponements that were happening, plus needing a break over the festive season, and all of those things combined, we've decided to just put the brakes on just for little bit. But yeah, so welcome back for the new year. Well, it's already 19 days old. But yeah, we're gonna do something different today. We will be releasing a dream team for the upcoming game week closer to the deadline. But we decided let's do a bit of a mid-season review, catch up on all the chaos that's been going around in FPL, and then after that we'll just talk a little bit about the chip strategy and how to use that going forward. So Greg, welcome back for the new year. How's things been going?
Hey Clyde, thanks man. Good holiday. Very, very bad for my FPL team though, unfortunately.
Yeah, I can see based on most of people's reactions, the a lot of people are finding it hard to embrace the chaos that's been going on in FPL, which we'll talk about more just now. But yeah, I had a look at your team because you told me that you played your wildcard, so I went and checked it out. And that was going into game week 21, am I right in saying so?
Yeah, I think it was just after it was just after New Year's Day, or it was on New Year's Day, and my goodness, what a disaster that was! It was a perfect storm of things that could go wrong. It was double game week announcements on New Year's Eve, obviously being out and with family and friends, and I'm not gonna react to that on New Year's Eve. But then I've got a deadline the next day, so I thought I'll give myself a couple hours, before deadline. I've got the kids running around, so let me just I'll give myself 2 hours to sort of feed, look at everything and review everything, and should be plenty of time. Well, it turns out it really wasn't, and yeah, I mean, I sat there with the kids sort of jumping on me with my laptop out on holiday, trying to dissect what the heck was going on with the fixtures, where these doubles were happening, what was going on, and it probably took me an hour just to try and figure out what the likely fixtures were going to be, which I think even there I got completely wrong, and then I started running some sims for my teams and putting things through the solver, and I kept looking at the solver and it was calculating, and then time was running down. Now there's 45 minutes to go. Crap! My solver's not gonna finish in time. So and obviously I've been using the solver recently to look at what sort of moves it suggests, and you start working out what the best sort of move you can make is based on what it spits out. And so then I thought, okay, well, let me just I'll reduce the number of game weeks it's looking at, because I need this thing to solve, otherwise I'm not going to know what to do. And I reduced it, and I sat there waiting, and another 15 minutes went by, and this thing's not going to solve. So now I've got half an hour left, so I reduced it again, and eventually I was solving for a wildcard team, panicking because I didn't really know what to do. Maybe I should use my wildcard. Let me solve for a wildcard team, and I was doing it looking at 4 game weeks ahead, which is absolutely nuts, based on fixtures that were all completely wrong. And I mean, you saw the disaster I ended up with. I literally, with 2 minutes to go, I clicked the button, didn't have time to check if guys had been playing recently, and it was just an absolute disaster. I had to take a -8 the week after just to try and rectify some of the.
And that's the worst. When you play your wildcard, you'd like to feel that you're going to have a settled team for a few weeks, and then you make effectively 3 transfers, which is almost like a mini wildcard in itself. So yeah, but I suppose, I mean, under the circumstances, better to react than too late, I suppose. Eh?
I mean, I can safely say this was the worst wildcard I've ever played, and that's quite an achievement, because usually my wildcards are pretty bad, but usually the team's not set up. It just works out badly. But my goodness, it was an absolute disaster, and so now I'm sitting here trying to basically motivate myself to recover. I mean, I've gone from a rank of about 2.5k when we last spoke, to now outside the top 10k. I'm sitting on about 11k as a rank.
So look, so it has been. Look, I suppose in the rankings where you are, which I can't relate to at this point in time, you obviously, look, if you're gonna have a bad week, you are going to have quite a drop, but at the same time, you have one good week and you're right back in the mix of things in the top 1,000. But I suppose it's all relative. But yes, I hear what you're saying. It can be demoralizing, especially to kind of pick yourself to go back up again, I suppose.
Yeah, look, I mean, I've got to be a little bit objective and say, like, a rank of 11,000 at this stage of the season is really, really not bad, and I probably would have taken that if you'd offered it to me at the start of the season.
No, of course. Exactly.
And when I tell a mate of mine who also is a big FPL fan, I'm like, oh, I've had a terrible time, and like I'm down to 11,000, and he just goes, shut up, I'm not even in the top 100,000. So it is like that, and I think I've just got to readjust my goals. I had this real big target of making the top 100 again this season, and you've sort of got to reassess it and just go, okay, cool, I've got to just, what's happened has happened, and now I've got to just make the best moves
but
for
I
my
suppose
team
it's still
forward.
not impossible either.
Yeah, it's not impossible, and with what's going to happen with all these millions of double game weeks that we're going to see coming up, it could be very interesting. So I think playing those 2 free hits that I've got and the bench boost that I've got, those are going to be key, and I think for a lot of people those are going to be key. And unfortunately, I don't have another wild card left anymore, but I've just got to roll with the punches and just make the best of it.
Yeah, I think that's about it, really. Well, look, from my side, I must say, when we were last talking towards the back end of last year, I felt like my season had got stuck a little bit, and okay, fine, we didn't have the option of captaincy because Salah was perma-captain every week, so we needed to get creative with our teams. And then I'm sure you remember a few episodes ago, I was complaining about the fact that you just pick a differential and within 2 weeks they go like from 3% owned to like 15, 16, 20% owned. I'm referring to players like Jared Bowen. I got him in like a 3 or 4%. And I can go on about a few other players where I was onto them early, and within like 2 weeks they were basically a template. Okay, but I must say from game week 17 onwards, when the postponement started happening, I actually felt like that is the shot in the arm I needed, or my team needed, because I kind of like, I'm generally quite the risk taker. I'm quite a random person. I don't like getting fixed into a specific strategy. I'm fairly agile, and funny enough, I think also the luck factor fell my way, especially those first few weeks of the postponements. Like, you had to be lucky that if you were tripling up on Liverpool and doubling up or tripling up on City, and those fixtures didn't get postponed, you were lucky, right? Let's just be honest. There's no other way to describe it. And it just so happened that if the players for your fixtures, those games went ahead, then you know what, good for you, right? And I was one of those early on, so I'm not going to take credit for any specific skill in that sense. But I must say, like, I'll just go through a few examples, right? So looking from game week 17, I only had one red arrow, which was in game week 19. The rest of it has all been green arrows, but fairly small ones. But put it this way, I've gone from a rank of 367,000 in well, if you go back to game week 16, I was ranked 576. Then I went to 367, 285, then back to 372, and now I'm at 199. Obviously, this game week hasn't finished yet, but it's like it's forced me to go and be creative again and not get too stuck playing too cautiously. I think, if that makes sense. Where I think prior to that, I got so caught up with playing cautiously and shielding my rank, against the template, that I stopped being creative, and I think that was the biggest change for me.
Yeah, I think the biggest lesson I learned was, I always thought the FPL is a game that where planning is probably the most important thing. Looking at the fixtures and seeing what's coming up and trying to make sure that your team is never in a dire situation. Planning your transfers, and for the most part, that's for all the years that I've played FPL, that's been true.
It's mostly true.
Yeah, and this last little period really taught me a lesson in the sense that sometimes when you plan too much and you start working out the probability of this double game week fixture being here and this double game week fixture being there, and you start to do that when there's too much uncertainty, it's an incredibly bad thing for your team. And I think you'll see a lot of people that have been over planning and really on the ball have done badly during this period, because it really was a period where you had to just not worry about what might happen, just literally take what the fixtures are, what's in front of you, what's been confirmed, not what might happen, and just try and play what's in front of you, and almost on a weekly basis, waiting until the very last moment until you've found out all the postponements have happened. Okay, who's left to play? Make your decision. And it really has been a sort of a month of simplicity trumps like the complexity that we get into with FPL. And yeah, it's taught me that when there is uncertainty, and if you go through a period where you're not sure what's going to happen in the future, instead of working out all these probabilities and trying to do all this crazy planning, actually sometimes the best method is just to play what's in front of you. And you can actually do far, far better by just reacting to what's in front of you and just making really solid last minute decisions than doing all this craziness that we've been pulled into.
Yeah, I think and that sums up my strategy fairly easily over this last few weeks. So what I've been trying to do was not plan my transfers for the long term, is to target one or two specific fixtures and just go with that over there. So, and I've been trying to pick differentials over the last few weeks. So I didn't care if the rest of the team was going to be template. If I could just get that one player who's going to return and give me a double-digit return, hopefully, that I'm only interested in that player. I'm not interested in anybody else, if that makes sense,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
just to give you an idea, like so game week 17, I'm just looking at my team now. It's like, so I had Watkins, who at the time was like 4 or 5% owned, right? And he got 12 points in there. So he was my big one. And then the following week, I brought in Martinelli in for game week 18. 2% owned, got me 15 points there. So that was a massive one again as well. Game week 19, like I said, Red Arrow, I only got 36 points. It was a write-off, and that was fine. So nothing really worked for me over there. But then game week 20 was an interesting one. I remember putting out a message on Twitter, tweeting a 1 hour deadline on Twitter for the FPL deadline, and forgot to go and make my own transfers after that. And for the same reason as you, I had people over. It was December, it was holiday time, right?
Yeah.
So it like absolutely just slipped me that 20-minute window was enough to throw me off. And it just so happened that it worked out perfectly for me. No transfers. I still had Ronaldo as my captain from the previous week, and he got 12 points against Burnley. So that was a lucky one where it just kind of worked out for me. But Jared Bowen got me 14 points that week as well. So it was like, and then after that, okay, well, Bowen got us all points because we captained him on the double game week with 42. And this past weekend, I saw you also, as part of your -8, brought Andy Robertson in for 12 points. I decided to take a punt on him as well, because I just felt with Salah not being around and tripling up on Liverpool, I just decided to take a punt on Robertson, 2% owned, and he's been single-handedly responsible for my rank increase. None of my other players had the same impact.
Yeah, I spotted the same thing. Robertson's numbers really have been good in the last few weeks, and
definitely.
I just felt like I would definitely rather have Robertson over a guy like Jota when there's no Salah. I just Liverpool don't look the same attacking threat without Salah and Mane around, and I thought let's go for the defenders. I think and to have Trent and Robbo, I think is a decent double up at the moment.
Yeah, no, definitely, because I like the look of Robbo before he got that red card.
Yes.
And in that game, he scored and he assisted as well. So it was an all-action game. Very frustrating if you had him in FPL, which obviously I didn't, so that's fine. But I was really impressed. I felt he was coming into the season quite well. He's starting to grow into things. Whereas maybe early in the season it wasn't the case. So that was quite interesting, and I decided, yeah, well, just take the punt, and it paid off it paid off immediately. So yeah, it's still fairly low, and I don't know how long that will last. I'm assuming with Salah coming back in potentially the game week after this one, then maybe Robertson might not catch up unless people want to remove Jota instead. But yeah, it will be interesting to see. But I must admit, like I say, I haven't been looking at really long-term fixtures. I've been reacting mostly, and it's been working out for me so far, at least. So yeah, it's like now I'm merely just planning around. Okay, Chelsea are going to have blank weeks because of the FIFA World Club Cup and so on. So plan around that, or because of the League Cup final, one of Liverpool or Arsenal will be in the final, and both those teams play each other in that game week anyway. So either way, one team will miss out. So it's like things like that. Doing not worrying too much about it and just saying, you know what, as long as I have backup on the bench, it's kind of more or less okay. Fine, I'm good to go.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a good way to do it at the moment, and there are a few confirmed blanks here and there that like I would avoid, obviously Chelsea players, because they've got three potential blanks coming up in 24, 25, and 27, and then other than that, I think you can just pretty much navigate your way week to week, and then wait for these double game week announcements, because there are going to be plenty of them, and those choosing when to free hits is going to be key.
Yeah, now that's an interesting one, because now you speak about free hits over here. Obviously, we want to protect people from taking drunken free hits or holiday wildcards and so on, right? So, what chips do you have left now going into the rest of the season?
So I've got the 2 free hits and the bench boost.
Yeah, so I've got Wildcard 2, the 2 free hits, and the bench boost in my pocket at the moment. And to be honest with you, I don't plan on playing any of them soon. Yeah. I'm waiting for everything to kind of settle, and then hopefully going into the to the UK springtime, maybe the fixtures. It's a long shot. It's really a difficult ask, because in the situation, I suppose the whole world finds itself. But really, I'd like to think once the outbreaks settle amongst the clubs, that we'll start to see a bit of a normalization in the fixture list, but we'll also see a lot of double game weeks as well.
Yeah, well, I think the big thing they need to do is sort out this ridiculous rule they've got at the moment, that players, these teams getting games postponed when they've got 1 or 2 COVID cases and the rest are just injuries. I think it's an absolute shocker. And, it really, what an opportunity for the Premier League to have, showcase some of the youth players coming up and guys getting a shot to play, because there are so many injuries in certain teams. And instead, we've got these games being called off for absolutely ridiculous reasons. And I think
I get you. I don't know if you watched any of the FA Cup games, but I was watching the Leicester versus Watford game. And that for me, just that game is typical of what you've just spoken about. Now it drives the point home. These are 2 Premier League teams playing each other. Yes, they were severely weakened, but if you look at the players available for Leicester, for example, right? James Maddison was there, Harvey Barnes, and there was a good number of first team players available there. With the sprinkling of youth players, fair enough, somebody like Hamza Chowdhury had to play in defense, but my point being is that they beat Watford 4-1, and Watford also rested a few players for precautionary reasons or whatever, and they had players missing, but they produced such a brilliant game, and it ended up 4-1 to Leeds, and the competition moved on, right? And then just a few days later, the same team is calling off a game in the league, and that is just like, it's a kick in the balls for everybody involved, right? Let's just be honest over here. And like, I don't see the logic behind that over there. Obviously, we Liverpool fans, we're not exempt to from it either, I suppose, because we took advantage of it, right? But again, okay, fine. People want our cases for the false positive things, which I don't see why that should be the case, because I mean we didn't invent those tests, right? But
Exactly.
but at the same time, you can understand the frustration because everybody wants to get on with the game. But it seems now that the precedent has been set. Everybody's exploiting the rule. But I have seen, some an article today that after this next round of league games, that the rule is going to be revised. So that's something that
I think they have
looking
to.
forward to. Yeah.
They have to step in and actually just say we got it wrong. Let's fix this rule. Let's make it. I think it should just be based purely on COVID cases.
Yeah.
And that's completely understandable. That's that if you've got a team full of COVID, that makes sense to postpone the game. When you've got no COVID cases and an injury list, that's not a reason to get the game postponed. And I think it'd be great if they just sort that out, get the games back on track. And then if you've got injured players, that's what your youth system's for. That's what your whole club structure's for, is to bring in these guys, to give them the experience in the Premier League. I mean, that's are we really at a point in Premier League soccer where you don't get to play Premier League soccer unless you've played in a big league overseas? Or how are we going to get any of these guys to come through if this is the way we're acting?
Yeah, there's that, and then also you look at Burnley. They've only played one game since the 16th of December.
That's crazy.
I mean, they're going to have like a 5-game week, a quadruple or a quintuple game week somewhere along the way. The way things are going on,
I took a photo of my fixture ticker earlier today, and I just went back to game week 13, and it shows the next 10 game weeks. So it's game week 13 to game week 22, and all you see in red is blank game week, blank game week, blank game week. I mean, it's just like it's like a crime scene on the fixture list. And I just tweeted out and I said, throwback to game week 13. I bet you didn't expect the fixtures to look like this.
Oh yes, I saw that. I saw that.
Yeah. And when you actually look at it and you see what happened and how many games have been called off, I mean, it's absolutely crazy.
Yeah, look, definitely, and like I say, I hope that common sense prevails, and so that we don't continuously see this, because look, every team will benefit from it at some point in time, but it's really it doesn't look good for the game, and it doesn't speak well of how well teams would rate their players. And yes, I suppose there's so much money involved in football and so on that Burnley don't want to risk a relegation battle because of a few injuries and COVID related absences here and there. But I mean, really, the fact of the matter is all the clubs are going through it at the moment. I think the only clubs that are truly protected from it to seem immune is City, who have such a huge squad, and then Chelsea in theory, but then they just haven't been doing well with their full strength team recently anyway. But I mean, it's just gotten out of hand at the moment. But like I said, I'm naturally, when you're seeing all the free hits being played and the wild cards being played, it's kind of tempting to pull the trigger here and there. But every time I looked at it, and like I've never had, even though with postponements, I've never been in a situation where a -4 couldn't have me playing a full 11. And even if I was down to 8, I did the math and thought, okay, you know what, maybe it's better I just play with 10 players, something like that over there.
Yeah.
And some of those decisions actually work, where I went in going, okay, I'm not going to have a goalkeeper this week when Ramsdale didn't play a few weeks ago, for example. Like, I didn't actively try to go and replace him because I didn't feel like taking a hit or whatever wasn't going to cover my, those points. So unless I felt like it was a high impact player, in a good fixture, then it was like, okay, I'm going to do it. But yeah, at the moment I've been taking the -4 here, there, whatever. But yeah, not really trying to get too sucked into the whole thing. And I'm really, like I said, I feel like the chaos has helped me a little bit. And if I can just kind of hang in there, like, obviously, if I have this one massive game week where I can hit the top, break into the top 100k, then great, But if not, if I can just kind of make the steady progress that I have been over the last few weeks, I feel like if I have those chips in my pocket going into the last 5, 6, 7 game weeks, I might set myself up nicely to really make one last attack on those rankings. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't have an end goal in mind though.
Yeah, the chips are going to be key, and I think that's exactly it. If you've got them, save them, and let's wait for things to settle down, and when these big weeks come through, I mean you could potentially be looking at a free hit, wild card, free hit, bench boost into the season. I mean,
yes,
it's kind of panning out like that for some
exactly.
some guys.
And like a lot of people don't like the bench boost chip because of the fact that you effectively rip up your team. You have to spread funds across it. But if you think of our teams this season, that's been more or less the case, right? Where the premiums haven't been firing apart from Mo Salah. So with Salah being the fixture and then the rest of the team being padded out and having very strong benches, it might be a much more easier year to play the bench boost without having to wildcard the week before. It might even work out better where we could actually bench boost, then wildcard after the bench boost, so we don't dead end our teams. And then after that, maybe play a free hit. And just disclaimer for everybody, just remember you cannot play your 2 free hits consecutive game weeks. So you must play it at least 1 week apart. So yeah, just keep that in mind. But yeah, I'm definitely looking at the traditional game weeks 34 and 37 to potentially play. To play those chips. And like bench boost is nice, but for me the ones that I feel that are really effective are my free hits. Like I feel like those are the ones that could potentially get you those 40-50 point jumps that you need.
Yeah, I'd say with a number of double game weeks that we're likely to have, I would be very, very. I would say it's very unadvisable to use any of your remaining chips when it isn't a double game week, because there's just going to be so much on offer when those weeks do happen.
Yeah, definitely. And I must say also, like I saw people getting sucked into the trap of the double game week between game week 21 and 22. I must say my first look at those fixtures was, this is a lot of shit. I'm not even bothering with this over here. If I have players, so be it. I'm going with them. And I think, like, I personally, when I saw people with Sopo Everton, I couldn't believe it because, like, it's Everton at the moment,
they're absolutely useless, and I was one of them that ended up with triple Everton. And I mean, the minute that deadline passed, I was just going, what on earth was I thinking? There's no ways that they're going to keep a clean sheet. There's no ways these guys are going to get any points, and that's exactly what happened. And that's a good lesson for everyone else, is that when you are looking at these double game week fixtures, sometimes, I mean, this week we're in at the moment, it's a great example. Cancelo with 11 points, Robertson with 12 points, all the double game week defenders pretty much 10
points as well.
Yeah.
So if you had the three of them, like I think you both of us have all three, they basically carrying your team, And I looked at the fixtures. I must admit, like, I'm still looking at the fixtures more rather than it being a double game week, And I was seeing like Jota, Trent, Robbo versus not Crystal Palace, was Brentford, right?
Yeah.
Then I saw it was the West Ham versus Leeds, where you could have attacking potential on either side, and I looked at that and I thought, what, if I have to do a transfer right now, I'm not bringing in any of those double gaming teams. Do I really want double Burnley, for example, or Burnley play in my team just because it's a double game week? Of course not, So yeah, I think like I decided to, like I said, just blank out all the noise. Whereas probably previous times maybe I would have got sucked into it a little bit. I decided, no, I'm just going to play my game. If it backfires, it backfires. But at the same time, I'm also playing the long game over here, where some people played the free hits, especially during the postponement times, and they got good points, 80, 90 point game weeks. But I'm thinking like later on in the season, when the likes of City and Liverpool and have to play double game weeks and possibly in the same week as well, that will be the time where, okay, well, look, maybe that's a bad example because most of us are stacked with those players every week anyway, you know. But if we're talking about optimal teams for those specific weeks, you might be able to have like a triple City and a triple Liverpool, and then, you know, do a double Chelsea or whatever, whichever team is in form at the time, or whoever has good fixtures. But it'll put you in that position to really target it. So you might lose 30 or 40, a 30-point, you know, gap against someone, but at the same time, you could easily make it up by gaining 50, 60 points later on in the season.
Yeah, I agree. I think, look, I think when it comes to double game weeks and triple game weeks, the key is going to be to choose players that are going to most likely play all the games. And so that's where someone like Mo Salah is brilliant, because he's very likely to play, you know, both games or all three, even if it's a triple. And I'd say stick to that strategy, is try and stick to the guys that you relatively certain will start. City, if they eventually get a double game week, it's going to be a little bit trickier because the likelihood of any of those players playing 2 weeks is very low. I mean, 2 games is very low. So yeah, stick with the guys. I mean, sort of expected minutes is going to be a big part of those double game weeks as well.
I suppose maybe that's where someone like Edison comes in. You just put him in there, and you got your double or triple goalkeeper week.
I can tell you right now that Edison in a double game week could be a very, very good differential captain shout out. A lot of people won't think of it, but when I've been just that ability of the goalkeeper to for certain play both games makes a huge difference. And if that clean sheet percentage is high, which for City is almost always that high, you know, if they're playing two relatively low ranked teams, I promise you that's going to be a slam dunk. And I'm telling you as well, depending obviously on what the other fixtures are, you know, unless you've got guys like, if it is just a random sort of City double game week, I expect Edison to outscore most of the players.
Well, that's an interesting one. Yeah, I suppose. I mean, look, I think where people get it wrong with the whole, when trying to play a triple captain or bench boost or whatever, it's almost like the expectation is those guys are going to go and hit 15, 20 points in each game week. And you're going to end up, you know, with the score to the roof, where that player is getting you like, you know, something like, you know, they'll end up going, like I said, 30 points combined. And then it gives you 90 points, which, let's be realistic here. I cannot recall a time where a double game week fixture ever worked out that way, where a player absolutely killed it in both fixtures, and to the point where, like, you know, you end up sitting with like 80 points from one player, you know. And I think people's expectations of it is too high, and that is why people tend to be irrational when it comes to the whole triple captaincy, bench boost type of thing, you know. And I think sometimes the key thing is just to remember is not to overthink it. Like, I played now my triple captaincy in game week 8. Okay, yeah. I'm just looking at it now.
You just reminded me that I still have the triple captain.
Okay, fair enough.
I completely forgot about that one.
Right, and that, okay, now that is one that I must say, triple captaincy is such an overrated chip. But my best triple captaincies have come in single game weeks. Just coincidentally happens to be Salah versus Watford on each occasion, right? And the same goes for, like, say, a bench boost. Realistically, what are the expectations out there? Now, if each of your bench players get, let's call it 1 return each, right? On average 5 points. 5 times 4 is 20. I'd say 20 points on a single game week bench boost is not too bad, right? And it's actually quite a decent return, assuming like you'll have a goalkeeper plus 2 defenders on there plus a midfielder. So if you're getting 20 points in total, that's good. Not to say that, look, I will play my bench boost on a double game week merely because that's effectively what you're talking about. if you're sitting with 15 players, that's 30 fixtures, right? So it gives you more of a chance of getting those high scores in.
Yeah, these chips do become sort of an overrated thing at times when you are looking at double game weeks, but I think you have to just look at the EV of when to play them, and it's always going to be the best outcome from a stats perspective and expectation perspective to use it on a double game week. And yes, sometimes it won't work, but it's going to work a hell of a lot more often than when you play them on a single game week. So
Yeah.
I think you must just go with that and go with. I think the key is going to be actually picking these juicy players that have.
Or pick the right double game week.
Exactly. Well,
Yeah.
we've got so many chips to play. I mean, I've still got 4 chips to play, and that's a crazy amount. Most people have 5 left to play, and we're well into the second half of the season. So I think what you've got to do is what's more key than using them now is actually when you use them and which ones you use. So that triple captain chip, for instance, I mean, you really want to save that for a juicy double or juicy triple where you can go for a guy like Salah or someone who's really gonna a human song against like 3 or 2 really low ranked teams. There are going to be some huge opportunities, and I think some massive variance for sure. I think you're going to have to get lucky when you do play them.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm kind of relieved that I got the triple captaincy out of the way. But it's the ones that I've generally done well with is the bench boost, which has been better results than triple captaincy at least. But the free hits are the real ones that I'm really, really looking at, because then you can go with a fairly optimal team into those weeks.
Yeah. The free hits should be fun, because at least the mini wildcard for the 1 week it's a lot of fun putting it together. So when these doubles happen, I mean, it's going to be absolute carnage.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's effectively what I'm looking at. I'm targeting the big double game weeks so that I can have 22 good fixtures each for my 2 free hits. So that's 44 fixtures that I'm targeting combined. And then with my bench boost, obviously, like I said, 15 players times 2. If I can get 30 fixtures over there, then that's great. And I think the fact that I have wildcard 2 still in my pocket as well will help me get that bench boost team ready.
Yeah, no, that's. I mean, you're living the dream at the moment.
Well, the triple captaincy would have been nice in hindsight, but like I said, saying I've had such mixed results or poor results with it in the past that I'm really not even. For me, it's really in a single game week you have 1 chance. In a double game week you have 2 chances, and if you're fortunate enough to get a triple game week, then you have 3 chances added to get your triple captaincy right, which is very rare anyway. But really, it's with the bench boost, I say, if it's a double game week and you've got 4 players, that's 8 opportunities to get the chip to work. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, exactly.
Well, if it's a triple game week, then times that by 3, for them it's 12 opportunities. So if it happens that way, then so be it. But that's why I like the bench boost and the free hit, because bench boost just gives you, like I said, more opportunities. But the free hits, for me, if you can get that right, I think you could easily see yourself get that 30 or 40 point gain on your rivals, and that could set up your season quite nicely. So yeah, I think all said, it has been frustrating. There has been challenges, but there's also a bit of fun to be had, because I think, especially with the more serious players or experienced players who've been playing for years now, they got so used to the formula of playing the long term game, waiting for the, what was it, blank game week 33 2 or 33 or something like that there. Then get double game week 34 and 37, blank game week 35 it is, when the FA Cup semi-finals or whatever it is, right?
Or Champions League, yeah.
Exactly, you know what I'm talking about. And so everybody gets so used to that template that they ended up playing that way. And I think that's why the more experienced players are getting frustrated, And from what especially when you look at Twitter and so on, you can see people are really suffering at the moment. But I do think that, if there has to be a bit of open-mindedness. There's a lot of fun to be had the way the game is being played right now.
Yeah, I think if you've survived this far, I think a lot of people have given up, unfortunately. But if you've survived this far, it's going to be a very interesting second half of the season, and time to really take advantage of all those chips you've got. Try and enjoy it. Don't plan too much. Take it week by week, and it should be a fun end.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to playing my bench boost or my free hit when Burnley play 4. Like what was I saying earlier?
Yeah.
Quadruple or quintuple.
Yeah.
Yeah, triple captain. Maybe you can put your triple captaincy on. What's his name? The guy's gone now to Newcastle, but.
It's a Wood, yeah. Wood would have been a great option, yeah. But now I think everyone's thinking Cornet might be the new one.
Maybe Andy Carroll will pitch up there and then you can triple captain him as well.
Please don't make me triple captain Andy Carroll. Please don't do it.
Yeah. I'll just bench boost. I'll have Pope, Ben Mee, all the defenders, Tarkovsky and the whole lot. Just imagine that. So look, I think this was a nice way to get back into the year. But anyway, all the best for the rest of the season, and for everybody listening in as well. You know what? It's a crazy season, but like I said, a lot of fun to be had here. If you got this far, like Greg said, you know what? You can't give up now, right? You may as well fight through this and cash in and get your points between now and game week 38. So all the best, good luck for the rest of the season, and we'll catch up with you all next